How many baseball fans do we have out here? Oh, man, we got a few, yeah. A little baseball trivia for you. Do you remember Francisco Cabrera? Yeah, some of you do. Well, we're going to talk about his story in just a few moments, and you may find and discover you have more in common with him than you think. But today I've titled my message, Bottom of the Ninth. Now, what does that mean? And what I want to do, I want to point you to a question this morning. I want to point you to a question. And this is the question. It's going to show up on the screen behind me. Have you ever felt behind in any area of your life? Have you ever felt behind in any area of your life? Maybe you can relate to this. Maybe your to-do list. Anybody felt behind in their to-do list? I was talking to someone out here. He said, my list I worry about more is my honey-do list. I said, yeah. But you know, for those of us that are always behind, it seems, I want to speak on our behalf, okay? And I want to say to you that are always ahead, we hate you. I'm kidding. God loves you. He has a plan for you. But if you was to take that to-do list and put it into like a baseball score, would your list look something like this right here? 27-3. You'd be like, you don't get it, Bryan. It's way worse than that. Maybe it looks like this. We could keep going, couldn't we? If you were to take that list and maybe turn it into something else, like your finances, yay, we get that. Or your relationships. Are you behind in your finances? Are you behind in your relationships? Does your scorecard look this bad? And it doesn't seem there's any way you can get out of this. What I love about baseball is that there is no time limit. Did y'all know that? There is no time limit. So it can go on forever. 30, 40 innings. But there's always hope, it seems, in baseball. You bottom of the ninth, 2 outs, something can happen. But when you apply that to our lives and you look at your finances, you look at your health, you look at your, relationships, your career, it can really get daunting and very, very down. Am I right? I know some of you come in here, you're just overwhelmed with what life is bringing to you, and you're down and out. But you're not out. You may be down, but you're not out. You may be down in your finances, but you're not out. You may be down in your relationships, but you're not out. You may be down in your marriage, but you're not out. You may be down in your career because you want to be here and you're here, but you're not out. I think what we're going to do today is I'm going to help you see how God plays a part in that. How important it is. He specializes in bottom of the ninth moments in our life. He specializes in turnaround moments, in the impossibility. My mom, she loved baseball, and we bought her this, what they call a Video Plus machine. You ever heard of that? No? Well, 1990, they made this wonderful machine called a Video Plus. It was iPhone technology in 1990, okay? That makes you understand it. You know what you could do? You could record your shows on different channels at different times. Is that not amazing? It's called a DVR now. But what she would do, she would record her shows, and she wanted to record baseball. And she would love to sit and watch baseball. Now, I would sit down with her, and I like baseball, but it was really hard for me at 12 years old, sitting down watching baseball. It just never happened. Nothing was happening. I'm just waiting, something needs to happen. And she knew all the names, she knew everything about it, all the players. And I said, Mom, I'm just going to get up and walk out, and I'll check on you. The minute I walk out, I hear, woo! Come running back in. What's going on? They hit a base hit. That's all? Yeah, man on first. Okay? What I quickly learned was the best time to watch the game was at the bottom of the ninth. That's when things happen. When you get to the bottom of the ninth, 2 outs, the game on the line, that's when I would watch the game. That's when it got interesting for me. It seemed that's when the magic would happen, right there. And a lot of us today, we're sitting right there at the bottom of the ninth in our life. And I'm telling you, God has a way of making possible out of the impossible. There's a story, a video that I want you to see that will help you. It's kind of a metaphor to kind of help you understand what I'm saying, kind of get you in that picture of what it means to be in the bottom of the ninth. And this is a story about Francisco Cabrera. This is 1992 National League Championship. Pirates are winning 2-1, bottom of the ninth, 2 outs, and Francisco Cabrera steps up to the plate. Watch this.
Francisco Cabrera comes to the plate to bat for the pitcher. He hacked at the 2-0, now the 2-1. Line drive and a base hit! Just as the score of the tying run. Green to the plate. And he is safe! Safe at the plate! The Braves go to the World Series! The unlikeliest of heroes wins the National League Championship Series for the Atlanta Braves. Francisco Cabrera. And Atlanta pulls out Game 7 with 3 runs in the bottom of the ninth inning.
Good job. My mom was going, woo. Got some Brave fans out there. If you're a Pittsburgh Pirate fan, I'm sorry. This is the good clip I had. I had to show this one. But what you don't understand is the context of this. And when I was reading this, I was amazed at what really happened. You see, the Braves were winning the series 3-1, okay? Then Game 7 came, Well, first they lost Game 5, they lost Game 6, and here comes Game 7. They're down 2-1, 2 outs. People were leaving the stadium. All hope is gone. Don't you hate it when people leave the stadium? Support your team. But Bobby Cox decided to pitch hit. What he was going to do was replace the pitcher that was up to bat. So what he did, he looked down the dugout and he said, I need somebody to hit. I don't know why he picked Francisco Cabrera. I don't know that. But he looked down and said, that's who I want to hit. The history of Francisco was this. In the last 11 bats, he'd only hit like 3 times. And he had never got a hit off this pitcher that he was about to stand up to. You see, what's interesting is that it didn't matter his past failures. He stood up to the plate. What he did was he took a bat, he stood on that plate, and he says, this is what I've been asked to do. And he hit a base hit. A great story of how he didn't let his past failures or his current reality of his situation define him. Now, are you dealing with that today? Are you dealing with your past, current reality? Some of you today, your past keeps you from ever believing in what God has for you. Some of you, your current reality is so horrible and hard to understand that it's impossible to believe that God could ever So what I want to say today, if you're in that situation, and I know that a lot of us face that impossibility today, but I want to say, before you leave today, there is one thing you need. One thing we all need to help us through that. One thing, and this is the word, hope. You see, I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to tell you a story today about the most credible source of hope you could ever find. You know, some of you came in with no hope. You got a phone call this week. Or you had something happen in a relationship. Or you didn't get into school you needed to. You can't make the car payment this week. Or, you know, it's life just pounding us, and we feel like we can't get out. But I want to tell you, Jesus is the most credible hope that we can find. And I'm going to read you a story, talk to you a story about that. It's like this. Jesus was walking down the road one day, him and his disciples. You know, I guess they were just chilling out. Just fed 5,000 people. You know, hey, that was a good thing, wasn't it? Here comes this rich young ruler, and he says, Jesus, tell me something. How can I have eternal life? And Jesus said, looking at him, kind of understood his heart, kind of knew where he was going. He said, you know what? Why don't you do this? Why don't you sell everything you have, give it to the poor, and follow me? The man looked away, sad, and walked away. What's so interesting is this verse here. I want you to look at it with me. This is Matthew 19:23. Then Jesus, his disciples were there. He turned to his disciples and he said this, truly I tell you, it's hard for someone who is rich to enter the kingdom of heaven. Again, I tell you, it is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for someone who is rich to enter the kingdom of heaven. Now, you may think he's talking about money here, but you know, I've talked to some of my guys here that know a little bit about that history. And, you know, in those days, money meant a lot of different things. If you had money, it was assumed you had favor with God. It was assumed that, you know, you should know better. You have money. God has blessed you. You should know better. And when this, I'll read this next one to you, 25. And here's what his disciples said. When the disciples heard this, they were greatly astonished. They were astonished. They could not believe that a man like that could not understand. And what it did for them, it made them doubt who they are. Because these guys, you know, they don't have anything. You know, they're very, you know, normal. We don't have anything. We don't know what, you know, we're just hanging out with you, Jesus. We don't really understand if he can't make it. Well, what's that mean for us? What does that mean for us? Then who will make it, Jesus? Who will make it? And the answer was this: no one. Nothing, your devices or your money or your, how many times you come here and hear me speak? How many times you go to Bible study? How many times you put a sticker on your car that says, I love Jesus? Honk if you love Jesus. It does not matter, he says. No one. And this next verse is what I want you to get. Jesus looked at them and said, with man, this is impossible, but with God, all things are possible. Let me read it again. With man, this is impossible, But with God, all things are, say it, possible. You see, the greatest impossibility for us is not whether we get out of our current situation. The greatest impossibility that's ever been for us is getting to God. The greatest impossibility was that we were here, God was here. He had to do something to make that possible. And what he did, he came to earth. He gave his life. And he made a way, the possible, the impossible, possible. I want to share a story with you. A beautiful family, the Stancil family, they're over here right now. I've come to know them. And they gladly shared their story. And they have been facing what I would call impossibilities. Things that would just wreck you and wreck your life. But what's amazing is watching them and how they understand that God is the God of possible. That he can bring the possible out of impossibility and make things happen. So I want you to watch this.
We're Brett and Angela Stancil. We live in Easley. We have 3 kids. We have Cameron, who is 15, Emily, who is 14, and Connor, who is 10. Brett and I have been together for 30 years and married almost 21. 1999, Cameron was born. She was 8 months old, and one day I went to put her in her walker, and she used to get like crazy excited to get into the walker, and she tried to jump out of my arms, and I grabbed her just to keep her from landing on her head. And when I did, I grabbed her around the belly and unknowingly caused bleeding around a tumor that she had. When they got in and did the surgery, we were waiting in her room to hear from the doctor, because he had told us it wasn't going to be anything bad, 100%. And the surgeon called and said that it was cancer. I think the whole floor, the whole pediatric floor heard me. Then I got pregnant with Connor, and just before Cameron's 5th birthday, she went in for a routine test, and the radiologist came in and told us that the tumors were back in the exact same place. So she had to go in and have surgery again, and the surgeon was holding her on the table. He was going to put a port in her so that she could start getting chemo, and he got a call from the pathologist, and the pathologist said that it was benign. It was not cancer. And I remember sitting in the conference room with the surgeon, and he was just crying. He was just bawling and saying how God had his hand on Cameron and how blessed we were. After that, from all the stress, I started having issues with my pregnancy, got very sick. My kidney and liver, or kidneys and liver started shutting down, and they had to take Connor. He was preemie, he was 7 weeks early, and he was in the NICU for 2 weeks, and we had a good run there for a while, and we're at Christmas in 2012, and Emily started having really bad headaches. She was 11 then. She started having bad headaches and was very lethargic, just couldn't get her up and get her going. Then the day after Christmas, she woke up and she just couldn't move, and she was crying, so we decided to take her to the emergency room, and they did a CAT scan and found that she had a brain tumor. She had surgery the next morning. They removed all of the tumor, and she recovered really well from the surgery, when we've known so many that have had serious issues following brain surgery. So that was a huge blessing. After that, she went through 6 weeks of radiation. She had it 5 days a week. She would go in and have chemo, and then radiation had to be within, I think, 4 hours of the chemo. They would do the radiation, and she would say that she could smell the burning inside of her head, and it would make her sick. And so that was the worst of it. That was the longest 6 weeks of our lives. After that, she went through 6 months of inpatient chemo, where she went in 3 days a week, and she did really well. The very last chemo treatment was really hard on her, and she almost died. She ended up in intensive care, but God brought her through. He's brought us through everything. I've had so many people ask me what it feels like to be told that your child, much less 2 different children, what it feels like to have them diagnosed with cancer. And it's hard to explain, and it's something that I would never want anybody to imagine. I think what we've come to learn is that we've learned patience through all of this. We've learned faith, and we have learned that, most of all, God is in control. We are not in control of anything. And I had to learn that the hard way and just turn everything over to Him. And once I was able to do that, I have so much peace that now I feel like we can face any situation, good or bad.
We've kind of learned that don't sweat the small stuff in life. We've tried to learn what the small stuff is, and it's been made very clear to us at this point.
Ultimately, we know that God is in control, and whatever the outcome, He's going to use it for His good, and to move the kingdom.
Moving the kingdom doesn't always happen on our time frames, the way that we want them to happen. It's not always fun, but we know that the plan is in place for God to work through those types of tough times for us.
We're blessed. We truly are. Even through the bad, we have been so incredibly blessed, and we give God all the glory. We love Him so much.
Thank you guys for sharing your story. I know some of you in here are facing impossible situations. And we're going to do something a little different today. I feel like as a church that we can help one another with prayer. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to ask you, if you're dealing with something, okay, that seems like I'm at the bottom of the ninth, there's no hope. God, I don't know where to turn. I'm going to ask you to do something. It's challenging, but I'm going to ask you to do this. I want you to stand. If you feel like you need prayer today, I want you to stand right where you are. What I want to do, thank you for standing, stepping up to the plate this morning. But what we want to do as a church, we want to pray for you. And this is how we're going to do it. It's a little uncomfortable for some of you maybe. But Marathon, if you would, if you're behind them, could you just put a hand on their shoulder? Find someone, put a hand on their shoulder. Somebody needs a shoulder right here. If you see somebody that needs prayer, please go to them and pray for them right now. What I'd like for you to do is lift them up and pray possibility out of the impossible. See, Jesus has already made the way. He's already made the path clear. So let's pray today together. Pray with me. Father, I thank you for the amazing courage I see in this room. I thank you for the stories we can share that are difficult, yet they change lives and they motivate us to point to you. Lord, it's heavy for a lot of people today. They don't know how to get out from under what they're dealing with. I know there's finances that need to be settled. There's relationships that need to be settled. There's marriages that need to be fixed. And there's health and physical needs that need to be met. And Father, I just want to pray that you would begin to touch lives this morning, that your hope will be revealed to each person that is standing and praying today, that you would give them hope, give them courage, let them know that you have already made the way. We love you. We thank you for what you're going to do. If the rest of you would stand, I want Spencer just to lead us in this song together.
Through it all, my eyes are on you. Through it all, it is well. Through it all, my eyes are on you, and it isn't well. It's well. So let go my soul and trust in Him. The waves and wind still know His name. So let go my soul and trust in Him. The waves and wind still know His name. The waves and wind still know His name.
You know, Jesus had his own bottom of the ninth moment when he went to the grave. And 3 days later, hope was born. Hope was born for me. Hope was born for you. And this is what he said. This is what the Bible said. For God so loves you, Tom. For God so loves you, sir. For God so loves you. For God so loves you, Jay. Bob. For God so loves me. These are the Stancil girls right here. Thought we'd have them come out. God has made a way for you today. And I want us to sing this next part together, okay, as a church, like an anthem. Let's sing possibility this morning.
It is well with my soul. It is well with my Thank you so much for joining us this morning. We hope you had a great time. We have a great week, and we'll see you next Sunday.